Howdy. In this video, I'm going to go over the supply chain game screen and the information you can get through the website. Now, this is the main page where you basically have access to your team name, the cash amount you have, and then the current simulation day. Right now, the simulation is suspended at day 730. This is like 2 years worth of data. And then you are going to play the next 2 years considering the data from the first 2 years. On the first round of the game, we are going to play in this area called Calopia. In the second round of the game, you will have an option to expand your business to the other 3 regions and then the island Fardo. Again, on this first round, you will be only playing in the first region. In the game, you will see this do nothing team, and you may wonder what is it doing. Do nothing team basically is going to play the game with the initial parameters you will see when you open the game. And you can say basically make a comparison saying that what would happen if you haven't done any changes in the game? Would you be better off or worse off, right? The cash amount, as I mentioned earlier, is a number. When you start your own game, you may see a different number than this one. I just created a simulation to just record this game, but every time I ran the simulation, it may end up with a slightly different number. Every team in the game will have the same number, whatever that number is. In the game, you can access to your overall standing right now. There are 56 teams in this simulation that I created. But your class will have different number of teams. The history is the amount, the transaction, or the decisions you made in the game. For example, if you change your order quantity or capacity, you will see them listed here. Right now, everything is based on the initial parameters I set, so there is no history in the first 2 years. The cash is basically, as we discussed earlier, the cash amount you have. Initially, this company started with $500,000 and they generated a revenue of 18 or close to $19 million. They have an interest income of $273,000, and that interest is basically based on 10% interest rate of the cash you have on hand. And here's the details of expenses, right? When all the things are done, you end up with the $2.7 million, right? So you can access to those information quickly. This update button is in the game. If the simulation was running on, let's say you opened the screen 10 minutes ago, within that 10 minutes, perhaps a day or 2 would have passed. So you can see the results after that one, right? So what I would like to go over now is that cover headquarters, factory, and warehouses, and see what kind of information you can get through those screens and what you could do. Right. So let's go to the headquarters. In the headquarters, you basically see some basic information, like each drum you are selling is $1,450. And the customer wait only a single day. So if you wait more than that time to fulfill the demand, they will basically go, right? I can look at the demand. This is the demand pattern for first 2 years. It looks like there is a seasonality and then there is a randomness, right? You could, of course, go into these numbers and say, like on day 182, demand was 119, and try to do this all 730 days, which is not very smart or efficient. The other way is you could basically download or look into this data in this table by switching between chart and data. But what I would suggest is downloading the data actually to your computer and running all the analysis you want on your Excel or whatever software you are using. In order to download the data, you go to this right hand side top corner and click to the download button, right? So that's what I'm gonna do. You can save. I'm gonna just open it for now, and it basically runs your Excel, and then asks you this question. You need to do this thing only once. Basically, although it is kind of an XLS file, somehow it doesn't get associated with Excel well. So it asks you to confirm that you want to open with Excel, and I'm gonna say yes. And here's the data, right? So day 1, 11 demand, day 2, 7, and I basically can go check all the days. I can do all the analysis, like what is max, mean, average, median of this demand, and so forth, to basically decide what I would like to do for the next 2 years. Right. So I'm gonna just close this one. As I said, this is demand information, and you can look into that one more. Right. Let me go back to this screen again, headquarters screen. The next one is the loss demand. Right. This time customers are arriving, but we are not able to satisfy the demand, and that is the situation. And again, for example, on day 177, we lost 125 demand, or in 268, we lost 12 of demand. So again, idea is that when we are in high season, it seems we are losing a lot of demand, right? So you gotta think about those, right? Here's the lost demand numbers. Again, you can look into that way, or which I suggest is downloading this data onto your computer and running all the analysis here. Finally, you can plot your cash balance. This is the cash balance basically you have. Actually, let me zoom in a little. Right. So here, basically, as you see, when you go up at certain points, and then it suddenly goes down, and then it goes up and then down. The reason for that is, let's say you wanted to manufacture 100 items on a batch. Basically, that amount is immediately subtracted from your available cash, right? So you pay in advance or before the production happens, and then you collect the money only when you sell it, right? That's why we see this down movements, for sudden down movements, and then over a period of time you get the money back. That is something important. For example, let's say you decided to increase your capacity and you spend $2.7 million for that increase. You will only be left with about 40,000, and you can only use that amount to basically generate, manufacture drums and then sell it, right? So be careful. So that was basically the headquarters. Then we have factory and warehouse. The settings are very similar, so you could basically change certain things in the warehouse or the factory, right? So let me kind of expand this one, right? So in the factory, you can adjust your capacity, right? Currently, this facility basically manufactures 20 drums a day. So if you order, let's say 150 units as it's shown here, it's gonna take 7.5 days, basically 150 divided by 20 to manufacture these 150 drums of chemicals, right? And then based on the mode of transportation, it's gonna take certain days to ship it to the warehouse where the final sales occur, right? For the shipping method, you have two. You could use mail transportation, that is $150 per unit, and it only takes a single day to ship it to the warehouse, right? Or you could choose truck, $15,000 per truck fee, but the truck is slower and it takes 7 days to ship it to the warehouse, right? For example, if I go with these numbers, if I'm asking to manufacture 150 drums of chemicals, it's gonna be 7.5 days of manufacturing and then 7 days of truck shipping. So it will take 14.5 days for me to receive the shipment once I order, assuming that the facility is already available and can manufacture it immediately, right? And there is no backlog, let's say. right? So that's how you do the adjustment. There is a priority level. This is not required for the first round, so I'm not going to discuss it. Another thing you need to be aware of is that this production cost, right? So when you wanted to manufacture 150, let's say, units of product, so you have to pay this $1,500. This is fixed cost of ordering any numbers, right? Then you will pay 150 times 1,000. So in total you will pay 151,500 to manufacture 150 units of drums, right? And that is good to know, because if you keep let's say you wanted to get production quantity or order quantity small, instead of 150 you wanted to get to 10 so that you can ship it quickly, then what will happen is you have to pay this 1,500 plus 10 times 1, 10,000. So 11,500 would be the production cost for 10 units, right? If you try to do one at a time, then the situation would be $2,500 per unit, right? Remember, you are making only $1,450 as a revenue, so selling or making one at a time is not, making one at a time is not a good idea, because it costs you $2,500, but you are selling it for $1,450, right? So one of the decisions in the game is the production quantity, right? And for that, we are using the continuous review inventory policy. Basically, if you go back and check your notes, there is a reorder point, which is the order point here. And whenever your inventory position drops down to that reorder point, you place an order of quantity 150 in this case. So what this company is doing initially is they have reorder point set to 300 and order quantity is set to 150. And whenever their inventory position drops down to or below 300, they place an order of 150. And then they are asking for a truck shipment to bring that 150 units of product to the warehouse. That is your mode of transportation and order quantity decision. Another decision you need to make is this capacity. As I said, initial capacity is 20. So that means it's gonna take 7.5 days to manufacture this 150 units, and you may want to basically speed up. The speed up can happen through transportation or the capacity, right? The production speed, right? Let's say I wanna add a capacity to my facility. A couple of things you need to be aware of it. First, when you say I'm going to invest in capacity, it takes 90 days to that capacity to become available to you. You can assume this is a construction time, right? So you say I'm doing it and it takes 90 days to be finished, or expansion to be finished. Another important thing you need to be aware of is this capacity expansion cost. So it is not free to say, okay, I want to increase my capacity to 500 units and do manufacture very quickly to meet the demand. It costs you money. And in this game, it is $50,000 for each additional unit of capacity. For example, if I wanted to increase my final capacity to 70, right, I need to add 50 units of additional capacity because I had 20 to begin with. And when I say 50, it's gonna be $2.5 million, right? So, and this money will be subtracted from that $2.7 million you had in the game immediately, right? So I would be only left with $238,000 when I do make this decision, right? So the next thing is, do you have enough money to basically manufacture and so forth? So be careful about what you are doing, especially in the earlier stages of game, to not run out of money. As soon as you say begin, $2.5 million will be subtracted your available cash, and that decision is irreversible. So you cannot just say, oh, I made a mistake, I meant to add 5, not 50, or whatever the reasons. once you make that decision, it is gone. So please make sure that you are basically making this decision very carefully, double checking the numbers and everything to not to end up with a situation you didn't plan to, right? Another point I would like to make is that right now the game is in a suspended mode, so basically none of the decision I make is going to be effective, right? If I say begin 5th, right, and do like okay, you will get this basically a commence transaction is not going to happen, right? Although I put that information, right? So this is true for other decisions as well. So I'm telling you this because during this analysis period, you may want to do some changes in the game. Unfortunately, they will not happen, or they will not take effect when the game started. So you need to have all those actions listed or noted somewhere, and as soon as game starts, you can come back and make those changes. Any change before the game starts is not going to be in effect. So final facility is the warehouse, and basically warehouse is same as the factory in terms of shipping mode and order quantity decisions, right? In addition to those, you could look into your inventory levels, right? Basically I have truck inventories, these green bars, basically each one of them 150, right? And then I have warehouse inventories. This is the inventory level at the warehouse. This is the time basically when I have a shipment, my inventory goes up and then it goes down and so forth. But the best thing is basically downloading the data through this menu here and then playing the game that way. Now, overall in the game, you have a couple of decisions to make. One, and the initial one is probably, do you want to expand your capacity to a certain number, right? The second one is the mode of transportation. You need to choose whether you are going to use truck or mail, right? And then the third one is basically your reorder point and order quantity for the continuous review. Now, you can make these decisions multiple times. For example, you may adjust your order quantities throughout the game to basically match the demand and so forth, or you may just choose another number and leave it that way, right? I believe there is a room for improvement using this game, playing it actively and making certain adjustment at certain intervals to basically make sure that you are meeting the demand better than just with a single number. I wish you all good luck, and please let me know if you have any questions.